Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CarPod. So today we're going to be talking about IB Latin. So IB Latin is a standard level class here at Hoover, and it is one of the two IB languages that are taught here. So I've never taken Latin, but Claudia has, and we brought one of her esteemed classmates, one of our dear friends, Chloe. So, Chloe, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm Chloe, and right now I'm one of only 3 IB Latin students, which is a pretty tiny number, but we're hoping to grow the program some more as time goes on. And I'm also doing IB Diploma. It's kind of a lot, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah. I wanted to take Latin, I'm not going to lie, but my mom was like, no, you use Spanish more. I'm like, okay.
Really? Latin, you should have taken it. It's really nice.
Right.
I think one of the things I like about it is I've always been really interested in Roman history. I think in part due to the Percy Jackson series. And you can learn a lot about that, too.
Yeah. So do you want to give, an overview of the class and, what we've been doing this year?
Well, before you guys get to IB Latin, because I'm assuming you're probably underclassmen or 8th graders at this point, you're going to have to take 3 years of Latin first. And a lot of that follows a textbook that's called Cambridge Latin, and that has some fun stories, fun characters. But in your 4th year, Grumio is the good one. There's actually one textbook character. His name is Grumio, and he's in the year 1 Latin class. And somehow last year we ended up building a shrine to him, partly my idea. But that's pretty cool. We used to actually wish for good luck before tests and stuff there.
Yeah. And so in IB Latin, we've been translating, so I guess at the end of the year we have two papers for our exams, and so one of them is prepared passages, which is what we've been working on mostly throughout the year.
Right now we're working on works by Virgil, and we're working on I guess Ovid, and that has a lot of mythology stuff in it too.
Second paper is sight reading, and it's an Ovid piece, so we've been practicing sight reading with the Ovid pieces. And then we've also been translating Sallust for the prepared pieces.
Yeah, I think one of the things I do like about Latin is that you do not have to give an IO, an individual oral. So you don't really have to speak it as much as you just have to have a comprehension of how to read it and how to translate it.
So
I wish Spanish was like that.
Okay, so before we get into the deeps of Latin, what is your CAS project?
Well, right now my CAS project is actually, I'm working on making a site that's going to detail other CAS projects that future students here kind of know what to do. Of course, I'm a bit of a procrastinator, so I haven't quite gotten that much work done on it yet, but I look forward to it and kind of seeing what my other peers have done.
That's good. So what is your EE about?
Honestly, I don't even want to talk about that. I'm sure a lot of you guys will love your EEs and will have a lot of fun with your question, but my question has just not been working in my favor, even though it's something I'm interested in. It's sort of about the outlaws Frank and Jesse James and the political motivations behind their actions, but I think it's just more of an obscure thing. It's been harder to find good sources, especially first-person sources for that.
So why did you choose to do IB?
To be honest, I think one of my biggest struggles in middle school is that a lot of the people just didn't really seem like they wanted to be in the classes they were in. Nobody really wanted to be there, and it kind of made me a little sad to go to school. And, I'm not saying I love school or anything, but I'm saying it's a little easier to get through the day when the people around you actually want to be where they are.
Yeah. I feel like that's something in IB you can pretty much count on. We complain about, but hard things.
That kind of brings us together, too.
Right.
And I feel like almost in AP you don't even see that as much.
Because I feel like in AP classes there's just so many of them, and so many people take them that, it's hard to build a real community.
The community is not the same, because, that's the nice thing.
I guess IB crew kind of links it together, too. It's kind of the bane of a lot of people's existences.
Yeah.
Depends.
Having crew, but then also having the council to where things are planned, and always having socials.
Yeah, IB gets to have more events than AP. And
right.
For those of you guys who don't know, crew is just sort of lunch is divided into 2. You have a crew for half the period, which is sort of just homeroom type stuff, and then you have lunch.
Yeah. And so as an IB student, we all have career classes that are only with other IB.
Yeah.
It's with IB kids and with IB teachers as well.
Yeah. But then also, there are certain classes that we all have to take. Like, we all have to take TOK if we want to do diploma. You know,
and
like, stuff
IB
like that.
English and IB history.
Right.
Like, while those have multiple periods, it's still...
It's like 2 class periods
Oh, yeah.
for our grade.
That's another thing I like about IB is that the teachers also seem maybe like they enjoy their job more, and I think they actually enjoy teaching their subjects specifically.
Yeah.
So you get teachers who are almost more experts in their fields, you could say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that about covers it for general IB stuff.
Latin time.
Let's talk about Latin.
Oh, great.
Okay, so we kind of talked about how the class works already and, like, the specifics of what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything... I can't think of anything else that we didn't really cover.
I don't know, I guess we cover why I chose to do
Yeah,
Latin.
why did you choose to do Latin?
I think I briefly touched on it, but when I was a little kid, I was, like, crazy into the Percy Jackson books, and even Harry Potter, if you know, a lot of that derives from Latin terms. So I always wanted to learn Latin. And we would go in, my mom and I would go in, like, bookstores and stuff, and there'd be, like, learning Latin books, and, like, little Rosetta Stone, learn Latin. Except we never got any, even though I asked, because, you know, I was a kid. I probably would have dropped it.
Yeah.
But when I got the opportunity to learn Latin, I was actually really happy to do that, and that's why, even when things are hard, I try to enjoy the classes as much as I can, because I know younger me would have really wanted that.
Yeah. I guess for me, I wanted to take French originally, but because of IB, I knew I wouldn't have been able to do, even though I didn't know if I wanted to do IB at the time, like, fully, then I still knew, like, I would be limited if I had chosen French.
Right.
I wouldn't have been able to do IB. And so, but I didn't want to do Spanish because I wanted to be different than everybody else. That was literally the only reason.
Oh,
I
not
just
like
wanted
other
to be
girls.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how I ended up in Latin.
But I guess, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah, Latin is actually a good stepping stone for other languages, so I guess if you want to learn French or Spanish, it'll be a lot easier,
Exactly.
Taylor's gonna go home and play this for her mom and be like, listen to why you should just let me listen.
The one regret I have... the one regret I have from high school, like, academic-wise, is not taking Latin, because I understand Spanish is valuable. There are a lot of Spanish speakers here and around the world, and that's completely understandable and a valid point. Yeah. However, the field that I want to go into is history, and I don't want to study, like, not to, you know, say that Spanish history or the history of Spanish-speaking countries and people isn't interesting. It's extremely interesting to me, but my focus is elsewhere. And I feel like Latin would be a good thing to, you know, have some sort of foundation in, but no.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess as, like, being an archaeologist, you might travel, and so if you go to Spanish-speaking countries, that could be helpful.
You know, Latin would be helpful, too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, yeah, like what you were saying, Chloe, like, Latin is, like, a really good, like, stepping stone, because a lot of, like, all the Romance languages, I don't remember what they all are, like, Spanish, French,
Portuguese, Romanian.
Italian?
Yes, Italian.
Those all, like, derive directly from Latin. And even, like, a lot of the English vocabulary, I think it's, like, what, third or fourth?
It's a decent-sized chunk.
Yeah.
Medicine, it helps as well. A lot of medical terms.
Medical terms,
bones,
legal terms.
Yes, legal terms
Harry
as
Potter's
well.
Logic terms, logical fallacies.
Yes. And then also, like you said, Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus.
I'm learning mythology that I hadn't even heard of, and I did a lot of research back in the day.
I feel like a lot of younger kids coming into IB will really relate to that, because I feel like Percy Jackson, like Rick Riordan's books have, I felt like, stood the test of time, because they were published like the years we were born, you know, 2004, 2005, 2006, all that stuff. And I think that's something, like, even since then, kids are still into it. So, like how you said, that really got you into Latin. I feel like that's, you know, if that's why you want to do Latin, don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, but I mean, another nice part about the class is that we do stuff that does engage in, like, Roman history. Like, we've done... we
did a gladiator fight.
We went out in the
courtyard and did a gladiator fight.
And it's pretty cool. There are actually different types of gladiators. There are gladiators who fight with nets, spears, swords. It's pretty cool. Nets.
Oh,
they throw nets at their opponents. Weighted nets. Can you imagine you're fighting some guy and then you just see, like, whoosh, and then a net lands on you?
No, but with the Percy Jackson thing is, I've never read Percy Jackson, so I also don't feel bad if you've, like, never if you've never been into that kind of stuff. Like,
if you're not a big
it's not gonna
nerd,
hinder
Right.
you.
You should totally read it, though.
you should.
Like, if you haven't read it, you should read it. That should be required reading, I think, for school. Freshman year, everyone has to read Percy Jackson.
But we also have, sometimes we have class parties on days when there are Latin holidays, too.
And also when we, like, went between from different books as we moved up through the 4 different units, we had, like, after we finished the purple book,
we had a party, and we brought purple food, because the books come in different colors. And I think that also helps you kind of get just a sense of accomplishment. It's nice to see your hard work paying off, even if the payoff is, like, Krispy Kreme donuts. Best kind of payoff, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
So, like I said, I'm in Spanish, and the class is obviously formatted a different way. Not in a bad way, but it's different, because, I mean, there are different requirements for Spanish, like, differences between Spanish and Latin, right? So, we have an IO. Like, I know you mentioned that Latin doesn't have an IO. So, like, what is that kind of internal assessment like for Latin?
Well, RIA, it's still a paper, but it's interesting. It's a lot shorter. They're only 1,000 words. And you're supposed to put images of historical sources or, like, historical text.
It doesn't have to be images. It can be text.
It can be text. You can put either a text from back when the Roman Empire was around or a picture of a relic, and then you sort of discuss it and relate it to a question. And mine was about how many opportunities there were for career advancement in medicine back when Rome was a big deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had a lot of fun investigating that and finding some sources to back that up.
Yeah. Mine was about the persecution of at first I was going to do Christians, but then I kind of realized that it was, like, a lot broader than just Christians. But, well, it was a lot of Christians. It was a little bit broader, too. But under, I don't even remember what. I think I did Diocletian, Dacian, and Nero.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I remember reading that. That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, you can read it if you want.
Yes,
but,
I would love to read it.
I'll be honest, this was probably the easiest and most enjoyable IA that I've written. It was kind of fun finding the images, and linking it up and building those connections was very simple and definitely rewarding. More than I expected it to be. My other IA is not as fun, but this one wasn't too bad.
Even world religions? You don't think?
Okay, world religions, I wrote about exorcisms. That was cool. I don't count that one.
that one was just for fun, you know, that one was... So, obviously, like, y'all both mentioned that Latin is about, like, a lot of what you do is, like, translating, and, like, sight reading. So, how do you prepare for that? What is that like? Like, how does that work?
A lot of the times, the stuff we're translating comes with pretty detailed notes that sort of help. And I think as you do it more, you sort of build up an understanding and you kind of learn how the structural rules work. Because there are a lot of grammatical rules in Latin, which can be kind of hard when you first learn them. But over time, everything follows a pretty easy, pretty repeatable pattern. Yeah. So,
that's one of the challenging things about Latin is, like, how there's really no specific word order. Like, usually the verb comes at the end, but, like, all the nouns and adjectives, they're all just scrambled up. So, like, you can have, the subject of your sentence and followed by an adjective that goes with the, I'm trying to use the English terms, not the Latin terms. The direct object of the sentence. Yeah. And then right after that have a adjective that describes the subject of the sentence.
It's sort of interesting because you also notice that a lot more in poetry, too. Mm-hmm. But I guess the important thing that I've learned that's been most helpful is that just look at the way the words end, because that's how you can tell how adjectives and nouns are paired.
Mm-hmm. So, I know in Spanish, I'm going to keep, like, comparing it to Spanish because that's what I know, but in Spanish we have themes, like human ingenuity, that's what we're on right now. We've had identity, I'm trying to think of English words, and not in Spanish. What was the other one? I don't remember the other one. Oh, experiences.
That's really interesting.
So, is Latin like that, or, like, do you, what,
we don't compose Latin,
units?
So it's not really like that. The units more sort of progress in a way designed to teach the grammar in a way that makes sense, but you also get, usually a good bit of history each time, too. And towards the end, it's primarily translating, but the authors change and the works change, and some are really interesting.
Well, then also, like, from an IB perspective, too, like, we have, there's like part of the prepared stuff, there's a whole bunch of different topics. There's like 5 or 6 of them. And so like Mr. Linder chose 2 different topics for us to choose the works from. And so I think he
made sure he picked the interesting ones too.
Yeah, I think our topics are Virgil
and villains.
And villains. Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So like, do y'all learn, because you mentioned like history, like mythology, Roman Empire, all that stuff. So do y'all learn like, do y'all do maybe biographies about like the authors that you're reading about? Like, how do you
usually learn about that a little bit too. Like we translated letters from this one person whose name was Pliny the Elder, and it was interesting because we learned about his life, but we also learned that back then people who were rich, wealthy, important, and involved in politics like he was would have written their letters fully knowing that they would have been published on a large scale.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine the ego.
Right. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there a favorite, like, I guess, unit that y'all, like, learned about? Maybe a favorite author, god, or whatever, since y'all learned about mythology, too?
I like Ovid just because the stuff he writes is more interesting, since it's a lot of various mythologies and stuff. He wrote one work called Metamorphosis, and it is all stories about, like, transformations. And one of the works we're translating from that is about this guy named Pygmalion, who...
I know Pygmalion!
Yeah, you know. Who carves this statue of a really attractive woman and falls in love with her. And honestly, the way he describes it is very interesting. Like,
Very
it's
vivid.
enjoyable to translate. Yeah. It's very vivid.
It is. I also we're still working on the needed, and I've actually kind of enjoyed it, because, like, it's kind of challenging at parts, but then also it's easier at parts, and I feel like through doing this this stuff, I've felt myself growing in, like, my abilities to translate, and, like, so it's been, like, kind of a confidence booster, and it's been really nice.
The feeling when you get something right, especially when it's, like, a really interesting, very Roman history specific, extended metaphor type thing.
Oh, yes, the metaphors that Virgil writes with can be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wrote one metaphor, and it was about 2 bulls fighting on a mountain.
And then there's another one about, like, hunting with a deer.
Yeah, by the stream with the bird feathers. It's very, very interesting stuff.
So, how do y'all study for a test? Like, I mean...
Honestly, this year we don't have tests.
Really?
Yeah.
And IB Latin, we don't really have tests. We just have... What we do... We kind of, like, built our own structure over time, but, like, the original plan was to do, like, Monday and Tuesday we'd be translating and Thursday and Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We'd be translating our, like, whatever we were doing, like, Virgil, Sallust, whatever. And then on Wednesday, we would sight read in class. And so we just kind of, like, would move through it and, like, go over it when we were ready. And so that's really most of what we do is just translate in class and then go over it and then talk about
maybe where we went wrong, what we can fix, and just if we are a little confused on something, the teacher is very good at explaining. Yeah,
Mr. Linder likes to go through, like, as we're, like, translating stuff, he likes to give us the history of things. As we, like, reach something in, he'll, like, talk to us about it.
It's very interesting because it feels like you almost understand it on a deeper level, too.
Yeah. And Mr. Linder is very knowledgeable about, like, everything.
Yeah, he is. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So do y'all think that you'll pursue Latin after high school?
I'm not sure. I think it will be of use to me later, but I don't think I'll take future courses in it.
Yeah. I don't know how much.
But
like,
I think won't IB Latin give us college credits anyway?
Yeah, assuming we get the
so I think
good
we've already
score,
kind of done the college level.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It depends on the school, but
yeah.
Usually IB classes in general, most colleges for certain classes will give you credit depending on your score. Like I know at I was looking at the Catholic University of America. It's in Washington D.C. and like for biology, if you get a 5 on the exam, you get to exempt a couple bio courses. If you get a 5 on history, you get to exempt a couple history courses, but you have to get like a 7 on what was it? It was another class where I was like, oh, you have to get a 7 on this to get credit?
Maybe it would have been like world religions or something.
I don't think so. It was like, I don't want to say it was chemistry, but it was something. So like, yeah, that's another benefit for taking a language, especially if for taking like a language for IB, especially because if you feel like me personally, I'm not that good at Spanish, but if I get a good enough score on the exam, I may not have to take it in college, which would be great because I'm scared of college level Spanish. And do y'all want to talk about maybe just like language in general and how to fill those credits, like as you work towards the IB diploma? You know, because like you have to take 4 years,
which can feel kind of like a big time slot. I think one thing to be prepared for is if you do full diploma, that you might have to give a few things up.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who've had to drop out of maybe doing engineering courses or band. It's either that or really drop out of diploma. So I think you have to know where priorities lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have that problem till this year when my science class conflicted with Mr. Lockhamy's African American literature class.
Which you guys should definitely take one day.
Yes. Another little plug. Yes. We love Mr. Lockhamy. That class is fantastic. And
Mr. Lockamy's great.
Yes. So yeah, I mean there's some conflicts sometimes, but like Miss Hamley and the counselors will work to make sure that if your schedule will allow it, that you can take the classes that you want to take.
I think another good thing about IB is that you do have Miss Hamley kind of looking out for you and kind of trying to make sure each student gets a schedule that they're happy with, and if they're not happy with it, that they can at least manage. It's nice having somebody looking out for you like that.
Yeah.
Like, she's not going to just let you hang out to dry, you know? Like, she's going to make sure that you're good.
And if there are any changes, she will talk to you immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something you don't really get in other... at least I don't think you'd get in other things if you weren't in IB, like...
Yeah, like, for example, this year I ended up doing AP Calculus for about a week and a half. And I sort of knew right away it wasn't going to work out. I don't really know why I got in that class. I have not done pre-calculus. But I pretty much came to Miss Hamley and I said, hey, I really don't think this is going to work out. I'm a little concerned just about my GPA and also about my other time commitments right now. And within 24 hours, I was in a different class that period.
Yeah.
It was very impressive. She's really amazing at getting stuff done.
Oh, yeah, she's great. And she really cares about, every single one of the IB students. Like, I don't know how she keeps up with all of us, honestly. Because, I mean, she knows your name. She knows your interests. Like, she knows all of it.
Yeah.
While, being IB coordinator.
Having kids, too.
Right.
Oh, and I love that Miss Hamley and Mr. Hamley. They're both married, so you'll get both of them if you do IB.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I never
far,
had
for
Miss
now.
Hamley.
Yeah, I didn't have Miss Hamley either.
Oh, that's
Well, I
true.
had her. I had her
for crew.
Yeah, crew, but like I had Miss 2 for English.
Yeah, well, generally
So.
at least get Miss Hamley for crew 1 year.
Right.
I had her 3 years in a row for crew.
Wow.
Yeah, wait, I did too, didn't I? No. Yeah, because we had Miss Ford.
I had Mr. Walker freshman year, Miss Ford sophomore year, Miss Hamley junior year, and now I have Mr.
Okay,
Wendell.
are there any other Latin questions?
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
I got distracted. We talked about studying, so do y'all have any tips for kids who maybe are already in Latin or kids who want to take Latin?
I think you'll pick up on vocabulary if you keep translating, but I think if you focus on learning the different word endings and their meanings, that'll be the biggest thing you can do. I wish I started focusing on that sooner. I think it would have helped me a lot.
And I think actually doing your work and studying is really helpful and
How do you study though for Latin?
I mean, okay, you can't really do it in IB Latin, but
well, no, you can make some options are making flashcards for words,
Yeah.
flashcards for word endings, and you can also make charts that have the cases and endings for Latin and make those blank and then practice by filling them in.
That's basically what I was gonna say. Just in practicing with the textbook, since it's online, it also gives you some other resources and stuff, and the vocabulary tester that doing it on your own and practicing with it is actually helpful, other than just using it for tests.
Okay, so I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chloe,
Thanks
so
for
much
having me.
for helping us. I really appreciate it. For those of you watching or listening to this because it's just gonna be
Well, it's also gonna be on YouTube.
right.
So.
So if you're listening to this on YouTube, comment
what should they comment, Chloe?
Like what emoji?
Comment hashtag Latin for life, heart,
No,
heart,
like an
heart,
emoji.
XO. Oh, like an emoji?
Yeah. There's like a little...
Latin. Do that little tango girl. I like her.
The tango girl.
We can do the dancing girl.
Yeah,
the one with the red...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So comment that dancing girl emoji. So once again, Chloe, thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode.